All right, so you're ready to tackle high cholesterol, huh? Well, you've come to the right place. We're going to take a deep dive today on how to lower your cholesterol. And we're using some of the latest research from the British Heart Foundation. Now they're a leading voice on heart health, so we're definitely in good hands. And get this, a lot of what you think you know about cholesterol might be a bit off, like those eggs you've been avoiding.
Yeah, you know what's funny? A lot of people think that the cholesterol you eat, like the cholesterol that's in eggs or shellfish, that's what raises your cholesterol levels. But actually, it's more nuanced than that.
Oh, really? You mean those eggs I've been skipping aren't the bad guys after all?
Not exactly. They do contain cholesterol, but
Yeah.
it's the saturated fat that really sends your blood cholesterol levels through the roof. Saturated fat is what you really need to watch out for.
Oh, so it's not as simple as just cutting out cholesterol altogether?
Nope. It's about understanding the bigger picture.
Okay, so saturated fat is the real culprit here.
Right. Think of saturated fat like that sticky residue, the one that builds up in your arteries.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for your blood to flow. That's what leads to all those heart problems.
Okay, so less sticky residue, the better, right? So which foods are the main offenders when it comes to saturated fat?
Well, you've got your fatty meats like your burgers and bacon, and then there's full-fat dairy like cream butter cheese.
Right, those are the usual suspects.
Yeah.
But what about those hidden sources of saturated fat, the ones that kind of sneak up on you?
Oh, absolutely. You got to watch out for processed foods and baked goods. They can be loaded with saturated fat. Forget about those creamy lattes,
Oh yeah, those are tempting.
especially the ones made with whole milk.
It's so easy to forget about those little treats. Now, while we're at it, let's talk about refined carbohydrates and sugar. I know they don't directly impact cholesterol the same way saturated fat does, but they still play a role, right?
They do. Refined carbs like white bread and white rice. They can spike your blood sugar, which isn't good for your overall health. And too much sugar can lead to weight gain, which can put a strain on your heart.
So it's about making those smart choices throughout the day, like choosing whole grain bread instead of white bread, or water instead of sugary drinks. Those little swaps can really add up. What about you? What are some foods you eat that you think might be high in saturated fat? It's good to take a look at our own habits sometimes.
For sure. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about what we can ADD to our diets to lower cholesterol.
Oh yeah, let's focus on the positive changes.
Well, unsaturated fats are your friends here. They actually help keep your arteries clear and healthy.
Saturated fat's the good guys. What are some easy ways to get more of those in our diets?
Simple swaps can make a big difference, like using olive oil instead of butter, or switching to skimmed milk instead of full fat, and snacking on nuts instead of chips.
Those are really practical changes anyone can make. And it doesn't feel like you're depriving yourself either. It's about making tasty A&D healthy choices. What are some other sources of unsaturated fats we should know about?
Well, avocados are a great one. They're full of healthy fats, and they taste great on salads or toast. And don't forget about fatty fish, like salmon, mackerel, and tuna. They're packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which are really good for your heart.
I love how you're giving us all these specific examples. It really paints a clear picture of what a cholesterol-lowering diet can look like. Now, what about fiber? We all know it's good for digestion, but how does it help manage cholesterol?
Well, fiber is a rock star when it comes to lowering cholesterol. It acts like a sponge in your gut, binding to cholesterol and stopping it from getting into your bloodstream. So it basically helps flush it out of your body.
So it's like a cleaning crew for your insides, getting rid of all that excess cholesterol.
Yeah.
So how do we get more fiber in our diets? Do we need to start eating bran flakes for every meal?
Not at all. It's about adding fiber-rich foods throughout your day. Aim for at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables each day. Think lots of color on your plate. Beans, lentils, chickpeas are also great sources of fiber. You can easily add those to soups, stews, or salads.
Those are some great additions, versatile and flavorful. What about snacks? Any high fiber suggestions there?
Definitely. Skip those chips and go for a mix of nuts and seeds instead. And when you're grocery shopping, choose whole grain bread and brown rice over the white versions. Small changes, big impact. I'm curious, what are some high fiber snacks that you enjoy?
That's a good point. We often focus on meals, but snacks are a great way to sneak in extra fiber. And speaking of ways to improve your heart health, let's talk about exercise.
Oh yes, exercise is crucial for managing cholesterol. When you get your heart pumping, you're helping move that bad cholesterol to your liver, where it can be broken down and removed from your body.
So exercise helps us get rid of the cholesterol we don't want, but does it have to be intense workouts? What if I'm not a marathon runner or gym rat?
Not at all. Even moderate activity can make a big difference. The key is to find something you enjoy and can stick with. The British Heart Foundation recommends aiming for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity per week.
Okay, that sounds doable.
Uh,
What are some examples of moderate intensity activities?
You've got brisk walking, swimming, cycling, dancing. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can break it up throughout your day. 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, it all adds up.
I like that. It's about finding ways to move more in your everyday life, rather than feeling like you have to spend hours at the gym. And besides the physical benefits, don't forget the mental and emotional boost that exercise can give you. It's a win-win for your overall well-being.
Absolutely. Now, while we're talking about lifestyle factors that affect cholesterol, let's address the elephant in the room, smoking.
Yeah, smoking is bad news for so many reasons, but how does it specifically affect cholesterol?
Smoking is like a double whammy for your cholesterol levels. It increases the bad cholesterol while also decreasing the good cholesterol. It's like clogging your arteries and removing the cleaning crew at the same time.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
And I know it's not easy. But quitting smoking is one of the best things you can do for your heart.
Absolutely.
Quitting has been shown to significantly reduce the risk of heart disease, stroke, and other serious health problems. It's never too late to quit.
That's encouraging. It reminds us that positive change is always possible.
Now, what about alcohol? I know that moderate drinking is often said to have some heart benefits, but how does alcohol affect cholesterol?
Well, while moderate alcohol consumption might offer some protection, drinking too much can definitely harm your cholesterol. It puts a strain on your liver, making it less effective at removing bad cholesterol from your body.
So moderation is key, as with most things in life. What are some practical ways to manage alcohol intake and keep our hearts happy? The British Heart Foundation has some great advice. If you do choose to drink, try setting weekly limits for yourself. Also, spacing drinks with water or non-alcoholic options can help you pace yourself. And have you ever thought about trying alcohol-free alternatives?
Yeah, alcohol-free drinks have come a long way. There are some really tasty and interesting options out there now. It's worth exploring if you're trying to cut back. What about you? What's one change you could make to your drinking habits to help your cholesterol levels?
That's a great question to think about. Small changes can make a big difference over time. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. There are lots of resources to help you make those changes, from support groups to online communities to the British Heart Foundation's website.
That's right, we're all in this together. And stay tuned. After a quick break, we'll be back to dive deeper into the world of cholesterol, exploring the latest research and personalized strategies for managing your heart health.
Welcome back. I know you're all about those practical tips. So let's dig into some interesting research from the British Heart Foundation. There was this one study that really caught my eye. It looked at the impact of a Mediterranean-style diet on cholesterol.
Oh, the Mediterranean diet. Yeah, I've heard great things about it. It's supposed to be really good for your heart, right?
It is. And this study showed that people who followed a Mediterranean diet, rich in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, olive oil, and fish, they saw some pretty significant drops in their bad cholesterol levels. What's even cooler is that these improvements happened even without major weight loss.
So it's not just about losing weight, it's about the types of food we choose. That's pretty empowering. I'm already thinking about how I can add more Mediterranean flavors to my meals.
Exactly. It's a delicious way to support your heart. Now, another study from the British Heart Foundation looked at genetics. Some people seem to have naturally healthy cholesterol, while others struggle no matter what they do. Well, genetics play a role in that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've always wondered about the role of genes. So if heart disease runs in my family, does that mean I'm doomed to have high cholesterol?
Not at all.
Yeah.
While you can't change your genes, you can definitely influence how those genes express themselves. That's where lifestyle choices come in. Think of it this way. Your genes might load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Wow, that's a powerful way to put it. So even if I have a family history of high cholesterol, I still have a lot of control over my heart health.
Exactly. It's all about taking steps to minimize those genetic risks. Now remember, we talked about medication earlier, specifically statins. I think it's worth emphasizing that statins can be really effective, especially for people with high cholesterol who are at higher risk of heart disease.
Right, statins, those are the meds that help lower cholesterol production in the liver.
Exactly. And they've been proven to significantly reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Of course, like any medication, there can be side effects. But for many people, the benefits far outweigh the risks.
Yeah, it's important to talk to your doctor. They can help you figure out if statins are right for you, based on your individual risk factors. But even if you're taking medication, lifestyle changes are still important, right?
Absolutely. Medication is just one tool in your cholesterol-lowering toolbox. It's not a substitute for a healthy lifestyle. It's about working together.
I like that analogy. It's about having a comprehensive plan to support your heart health from all angles. Speaking of a holistic approach, what about regular checkups? How often should we be getting our cholesterol checked?
That's a good question. The frequency of cholesterol checks really depends on your personal risk factors. Your doctor can recommend the best schedule for you. But in general, adults should have their cholesterol checked at least every 5 years, starting around age 20.
Regular checkups are so important. It's like getting your car tuned up to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Exactly. It's about being proactive with your health. And if you're worried about your cholesterol levels, don't hesitate to talk to your doctor. They're your partner in this. Now, I know you love those aha moments. So let's dive into some lesser-known aspects of cholesterol management.
Oh, I'm all ears.
So we know that cholesterol is a fatty substance and that it's important for building healthy cells.
Right. We need some cholesterol to function properly.
Exactly. But here's the interesting part. There are different types of cholesterol, and they don't all act the same way. We've already talked about HDL cholesterol, the good guy that helps remove excess cholesterol from your blood. But what about LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol? Did you know there are actually different subtypes of LDL cholesterol?
Wait, subtypes of LDL. I thought LDL was just LDL.
Nope, it's more complicated than that. Some LDL particles are small and dense, and those are the ones that are more likely to clog up your arteries and form plaque. Other LDL particles are larger and fluffier, and those are less likely to cause problems.
So it's not just about the total amount of LDL cholesterol, it's also about the size and density of those particles.
You got it. And that's where advanced lipid testing comes in. Some doctors are now using tests that can actually measure the size and density of LDL particles, which gives them a more detailed picture of your risk for heart problems.
That's amazing. It's like zooming in on those LDL particles.
It's all about personalizing your approach to managing cholesterol. Speaking of personalization, let's talk about gut health.
Gut health. Yeah, I've heard so much about how important a healthy gut is. But what does that have to do with cholesterol?
Well, your gut is home to trillions of bacteria, both good and bad. And the balance of these bacteria can actually affect your cholesterol levels. There's some new research suggesting that certain probiotics, the good bacteria, might help lower cholesterol.
Probiotics, those are the live bacteria found in yogurt and fermented foods, right?
That's right. And while more research is needed, it's a promising area of study. It's pretty cool to think that our gut bacteria could be playing a role in our heart health.
It really shows how connected everything in our bodies is. You know what else I'm curious about? The role of stress. We all experience stress, but how does it affect our cholesterol?
Stress can definitely mess with your cholesterol levels. When we're stressed, our bodies release hormones like cortisol, which can increase the production of LDL cholesterol and decrease the production of HDL cholesterol.
So it's not just about managing the stress in our lives, it's also about finding healthy ways to cope with stress internally.
Exactly. Exercise is a great stress reliever, as are mindfulness practices like meditation and yoga. Spending time in nature, listening to music, doing hobbies you enjoy, these are all great ways to de-stress and support your heart health.
It's all about finding what works for you and making self-care a priority. And let's not forget about sleep. We know sleep is important for our overall health, but what about the link between sleep and cholesterol?
Well, sleep deprivation can have a negative impact on your cholesterol.
Yeah.
When you don't get enough sleep, your body produces more of that stress hormone cortisol.
Right.
And as we talked about, that can lead to higher LDL cholesterol.
So a good night's sleep is like a natural cholesterol remedy.
You could say that. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep every night to help your heart. And speaking of heart health, let's switch gears and talk about the potential downsides of lowering cholesterol too much. I know you've been wondering about that.
I have. We've been talking about the dangers of high cholesterol. But are there any risks associated with having really low cholesterol?
That's a great question, and one that researchers are still looking into. There's some emerging evidence suggesting that very low levels of cholesterol might actually be linked to an increased risk of certain health problems.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, some studies have shown a connection between very low cholesterol and an increased risk of hemorrhagic stroke. That's a type of stroke caused by bleeding in the brain. And there's also some evidence suggesting a potential link between very low cholesterol and an increased risk of depression.
Interesting. So it's not just about lowering cholesterol as much as possible. It's about finding that sweet spot, that optimal range for each individual.
Precisely. And that's why it's so important to work with your doctor, to keep an eye on your cholesterol levels and adjust your treatment plan as needed. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right. It all comes back to that personalized approach to healthcare. And I appreciate you pointing out that the research is still evolving. It's important to stay informed and have open conversations with our doctors about our individual needs and concerns. Now, before we wrap up, I'm curious what sparked your interest in cholesterol research.
That's a great question. My interest in cholesterol research actually came from a personal experience. My father had a heart attack when he was in his early 50s, and it was a real wake-up call for our whole family. It made me realize just how important it is to understand the risks for heart disease and to take steps to protect our heart health.
That's a powerful story. It really shows how personal these health journeys can be. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course, and I think it's important to remember that we're all in this together. We all have hearts, and we want to keep them healthy.
Absolutely. We'll be right back after a quick break. To wrap up our deep dive on cholesterol with some final thoughts and takeaways. As we've been talking about cholesterol, I've been thinking we focus so much on the physical side of things, like what we eat and how much we exercise. But what about the mental and emotional aspects? Does our mindset have any impact on our cholesterol levels?
That's a really interesting question. And it's something that researchers are starting to pay more attention to. We don't completely understand the connection yet. But some studies suggest that there's a link between chronic stress, anxiety, and depression and higher cholesterol.
So it's not just about external stressors, it's also about how we deal with stress internally.
Right. It seems that chronic stress can actually cause inflammation in the body, and that might lead to increased cholesterol production.
I see. So finding healthy ways to manage stress, like mindfulness techniques, spending time in nature, or pursuing hobbies, could actually benefit our cholesterol levels too.
Exactly. It's about looking at our health holistically, recognizing that our mind, body, and spirit are all interconnected. And speaking of connections, there's growing evidence that social connections have a positive impact on heart health.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. So having strong relationships and feeling connected to a community can actually improve our cholesterol levels. How does that work?
It's probably a combination of things. Social support can help us deal with stress better and make us more resilient when facing challenges. Also, when we feel supported by others, we're more likely to engage in healthy behaviors, like exercising, cooking healthy meals, and making positive lifestyle changes.
That makes sense. It's like having a cheerleading squad for our heart health. So besides diet and exercise, nurturing our relationships and feeling connected to a community can be another tool in our cholesterol lowering arsenal.
Absolutely. It all comes back to that holistic approach. Now, we've covered a lot today, from the science of cholesterol to personalized ways to manage it. What are some key takeaways that you're finding helpful?
I'm really struck by how important personalization is. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's crucial to understand our individual risk factors, genetic predispositions, and lifestyle habits, so we can create a plan that truly works for us.
I agree. It's empowering to realize that we have control over our health, and it reminds us to be proactive, talk to our doctors, and advocate for our own well-being.
This deep dive has been so informative. I feel like I have a much better understanding of cholesterol now and all the factors that influence it. What about you? What's the most important message you want our listeners to take away?
I think the most important message is one of hope and empowerment. High cholesterol can be a serious concern, but it's not a life sentence. We have the power to make positive changes. Adopt healthy habits, seek support when we need it, and take control of our cholesterol levels.
That's a great way to put it. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of cholesterol, let's leave our listeners with this thought. Knowing everything we've discussed today, what's one small, actionable step you can take right now to improve your cholesterol levels and start your journey towards a healthier heart? Remember, even the smallest steps count.
And don't forget, you're not alone in this. There are tons of resources available to help you, from the British Heart Foundation's website to your doctor to your community.
That's right. We're all in this together. So take that first step. Embrace those heart-healthy choices. And let's create a healthier, happier world, one heartbeat at a time.